What if the entire college football playoff national championship matchup we're about to watch only exists because Caitlin Clark went nuclear in an Elite Eight game last March? It sounds wild, but when you follow the chain of events, it all connects. A massive NCAA women's basketball performance, a shaken-up backcourt, the Cavinder twins' decision, and eventually Carson Beck suiting up for the Miami Hurricanes and leading them straight into the title game. This is the kind of chaos you only get in the transfer portal and NIL era. So let's break down how we got from Caitlin Clark dropping 41 to Miami hosting the Indiana Hoosiers at Hard Rock Stadium for the national championship, with two transfer quarterbacks, Fernando Mendoza and Carson Beck, right at the center of it all. First off, the stage is set for the College Football Playoff National Championship. The Indiana Hoosiers come in as the best team in the country, the #1 program all year, and they've absolutely earned that label. Opposite them, the Miami Hurricanes get to play for it all on their home turf at Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. You really couldn't script a better setting. A dominant Big Ten power trying to finish a perfect run, and a resurgent Miami trying to claim the title in front of their own fans. Both teams rode their quarterbacks to get here. For Indiana, it's Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner. For Miami, it's Carson Beck, the Georgia transfer who showed up, took over, and delivered when it mattered most. And the fact that both of these guys are transfers is already a big headline in itself. Let's start with Indiana. Fernando Mendoza came in and immediately changed everything for the Hoosiers offense. He didn't just manage games, he took them over. In the semifinal, he went absolutely off, throwing 5 touchdown passes and looking every bit like the best player in college football. That performance wasn't a fluke, it was the exclamation point on the kind of season Heisman winners have. Every time Indiana needed a big throw, Mendoza delivered it. Indiana has been steady, complete, and ruthless all year, but Mendoza is the one who turned them from a good team into a national title favorite. When you've got the Heisman winner under center, your margin for error is just bigger, and you saw that in the semifinal. That's how you wind up punching a ticket to the national championship game. But on the other sideline, Miami has its own transfer quarterback success story in Carson Beck. Beck left the Georgia Bulldogs and made his way to South Florida, and a lot of people had questions early. Was he the right fit? Could he lead a program like Miami? Was this really the answer for a Miami Hurricanes team trying to claw its way back to national relevance? Those doubts didn't last long. Beck settled in, found his rhythm, and became the steady, confident leader Miami needed. In the college football playoff semifinal, with the season on the line, he came through with the game-winning touchdown. That moment alone cemented his status in Miami history. First year at Miami, first year starting there, and he sends them to the national championship with a clutch score. That's the kind of thing fans remember for a long time. But here's where things start to get really interesting, because the path that led Carson back to Miami isn't just about depth charts and offensive schemes. You can't really explain how he ended up in a Hurricanes uniform without talking about Caitlin Clark, Hailey Van Lith, and the Cavinder twins. If you follow women's basketball, college or pro, you already know Caitlin Clark is one of the biggest names in the game. During the 2024 NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament in the Elite Eight, she put on one of those performances that had the entire sports world locked in. Iowa versus LSU, rematch, big ratings, big personalities, and Clark absolutely torched the LSU Tigers for 41 points. On the other side, LSU had guard Hailey Van Lith, who had been having a really solid season overall. She'd taken on tough defensive matchups, made big plays, and been a key piece for the Tigers. But in that Elite Eight game, she spent much of the night guarding Caitlin Clark, and it was brutal. Clark was hitting from everywhere. Deep threes, pull-ups, step-backs, the full bag. And because Van Lith was the primary defender on her for long stretches, that game stuck to her name. Fair or not, that night changed the conversation around her. When you're a high-profile guard and the whole world watches you get lit up for 41, it can completely shift how people see your fit in your role. That Elite Eight meltdown became a turning point. After the season, Van Lith decided she needed a fresh start and ended up leaving LSU, choosing to continue her college career at TCU. That move alone already shook up the women's basketball landscape. TCU suddenly had a big-name transfer guard coming in. That
That meant a new pecking order, new rotation, new hierarchy in the backcourt. And this is where Haley Cavinder enters the picture. Haley Cavinder had previously committed to play at TCU for the 2024-25 season. She and her twin sister, Hannah Cavinder, are not just basketball players, they're massive names in the NIL world, especially from their time with the Miami Hurricanes women's basketball team. Social media, brand deals, on-court production, they're a package deal in more ways than one. Haley going to TCU was already a big get for the Horned Frogs. But once Hailey Van Lith joined TCU's roster, the situation changed fast. Suddenly, that backcourt got really crowded. Minutes, shots, usage, all of that becomes a lot more complicated when you add a high-volume, high-profile guard like Van Lith into the mix. And for a player like Haley Cavinder, who's trying to maximize her impact on the floor and keep her brand strong, that matters. So, Haley took a step back and reevaluated. Instead of trying to share a backcourt and possibly sacrifice playing time at TCU, she decided it made more sense to go back to a place she already knew well, Miami. And when one Cavinder twin goes somewhere, the other is not far behind. That decision opened the door for both Haley and Hannah Cavinder to return to the Miami Hurricanes women's basketball program. Just like that, Miami had the Cavinder twins back on campus. From a women's hoops and NIL perspective, that's huge. The Hurricanes not only regained two experienced guards, but also two of the most recognizable faces in college sports. That kind of presence on campus, in the locker room, in the athletic department as a whole, it changes the vibe. Now, at the same time all of that was unfolding in women's basketball, Carson Beck was going through his own crossroads on the football side. He was in the transfer portal, ready to leave Georgia and find a new home where he could be the starting quarterback and build his own legacy, instead of waiting behind someone else or sharing the spotlight. When a quarterback like Beck hits the portal, a lot of programs pick up the phone. There's always schools that need an experienced arm, someone who can step in right away and run an offense. But what made Miami stand out wasn't just the football side. It was also about who was already there and who was going back.
At the time, Beck was dating Hannah Cavinder. With the Cavinder twins choosing to return to Miami, that instantly made the Hurricanes a much more appealing option. You're talking about a chance to be QB1 at a big-time program in a major conference, in a city like Miami, with your girlfriend back on campus and a familiar social circle and atmosphere. Combine that with the opportunity to make a name for yourself on the field, and it becomes a pretty easy decision. So Beck committed to Miami, and all of that traces back in some roundabout way to Caitlin Clark going off for 41 points in the Elite Eight. Clark's performance helped push Van Lith to leave LSU. Van Lith heading to TCU shifted Haley Cavinder's comfort level with her own commitment. That led Haley back to Miami, which brought Hannah with her. And with Hannah Cavinder back in Coral Gables, Carson Beck had one more very personal reason to choose the Hurricanes when he was deciding where to transfer. That's the domino effect. One monster night in the NCAA women's tournament ends up indirectly influencing who's playing quarterback for a college football playoff national championship contender. Basketball to football, Iowa to LSU to TCU to Miami. It sounds like a conspiracy board with red strings, but the sequence of moves really does line up. Now fast forward to the present. Carson Beck is no longer in a relationship with Hannah Cavinder. That part of his life has moved on, but the decisions that were made back then are locked in. He still chose Miami. He still became the starting quarterback for the Hurricanes. He still led them all the way to the college football playoff, and he still threw that game-winning touchdown in the semifinal to send Miami to the national championship. That's one of the big things about the modern college sports era. Relationships, brand deals, social media, cross-sport friendships, all of it can play some kind of role in where players end up. Maybe it's not the only factor, maybe football still came first for Beck and Miami checked all the boxes on the field, but you can't ignore how everything lined up. With the Cavinder twins back at Miami and the Hurricanes looking for a new face of the program at quarterback, it really did become a no-brainer spot for him. And now, because of that, we get this incredible matchup, Indiana versus Miami for the national title. On one side, Fernando Mendoza and the Indiana Hoosiers, who've looked like the most complete team in college football all season. Mendoza's Heisman campaign wasn't just numbers, it was big moments, precision passing, and total command in games like that semifinal, where he put up 5 touchdowns and never looked rattled. Indiana's success this year is exactly what you get when your quarterback is both your best player and your emotional leader. And on the other side, Carson Beck and the Miami Hurricanes, carrying the weight of the home crowd and the energy of a program that's been starving to be on this stage again. Playing the College Football Playoff National Championship at Hard Rock Stadium in front of Hurricanes fans with that South Florida atmosphere, that's a massive edge. Beck has already proven he can handle pressure by delivering the game-winning score in the semifinal. Now the lights get even brighter. And under all of that football talk, there's this quieter, fascinating subplot that connects it back to women's basketball. The 2024 NCAA Women's Basketball Elite Eight. Caitlin Clark torching LSU, Hailey Van Lith leaving for TCU, Haley Cavinder flipping her decision and returning to Miami, Hannah Cavinder coming with her, and with Hannah Cavinder back in Coral Gables, Carson Beck had one more very personal reason to choose the Hurricanes when he was deciding where to transfer. It's all connected, piece by piece. In the end, the question becomes, how much credit do you quietly give Caitlin Clark for what we're about to watch in the College Football Playoff National Championship? Maybe it's just a fun footnote, maybe it's more than that. Either way, the chain reaction is real. Indiana Hoosiers versus Miami Hurricanes, Fernando Mendoza versus Carson Beck, Heisman winner versus transfer breakout, Hard Rock Stadium, South Florida, under the lights with a national title on the line. And somewhere in the background of all this, there's this Elite Eight game, a 41-point performance, and a set of decisions that helped shape what we're seeing now. Who do you think comes out on top? The dominant Indiana team with the Heisman Trophy winner, or the Miami Hurricanes riding a home field wave and a quarterback whose path to this moment might be the most